All right. Well, we are expecting a few more people, but let's go ahead and begin with the people we have. So the purpose of the session is just really to share a bit about the retreats and see what questions you might have, and that might be intriguing for you to consider coming to join us. So for Michelle, Brenda, and Noreen, so Tracy's our host, so she helps out with this. But for the rest of you, is there anything in particular that you're bringing that feels important to you in terms of what you'd like to get from this, or questions that are already on your mind, or wishes you already have?
I'm good. I don't
Okay.
have questions.
I've come for the experience and the practice that was
Okay, we're
offered.
gonna do that, so that's good.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Hmm. Anything for you, Brenda?
I think for me, I might take a break only because I think I've been going through so much recently, and I need to take a little pause and just bring myself back together with two desks close together and all that. It's
Sure.
quite a lot I've been going through. But I wanted to hear, what you had to say really for the next time, hopefully.
Yeah, so we'll do this again. So this won't be the last
Hmm.
time.
Right.
But and if anything, we may change the time that the duration, but the content won't change.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let me just put up a slide because it'll help explain sort of what these retreats are about. I want to tell you a little story that goes with this. Um,
Mm.
mm, uh, so one of the sort of premises for the work I've done my whole life, and it was very evident in the live retreats we used to do when I traveled more before the pandemic, was that part of our role as practitioners was to kind of bring light where people might be experiencing some darkness or lack of clarity but that light was often something we couldn't really know ahead of time what they might need until it was emergent for us. So a lot of the work I've taught in narrative coaching and integrative development was how do we bring forth the potential for learning and growth in any moment in time, rather than expecting people to fit into our formats of a coaching session or a workshop. And so this story this is not my photo. I didn't have my camera with me when my story happened, but it is the best I could find to illustrate my experience. So many, many moons ago when I was doing my PhD, I was with a group of students and a couple of faculty and some people from a tech firm in New York who unfortunately they died in 9/11, so we never saw them again, unfortunately. Um, but uh, when we were done with the day of just conversations, it was quite late at night and it had been quite warmed in the day, so most of us had dressed in shorts and t-shirts and things. But it was very cold at night. And I came out and I realized that my cabin I was staying in on this property was out in the middle of nowhere, no lighting, barely a moon, it was dark as all get out. That I had two choices to get back to my cabin. I could walk safely and get really, really, really cold, or I could run, which means I would be warm because it's faster, but also warm from running, but it'd be a bit more risky because you couldn't see anything. So I decided to run. And so I'm running up this dirt road back to my cabin. And all of a sudden, the bushes on the side of the road light up. And I didn't really know what these were. We didn't have these in California, but I remember somebody telling me this story about lightning bugs. And what I noticed was that when I ran by bushes, they would light up. But when I turned around and wasn't running there anymore, it was dark again. So I figured out that the vibration of my running was what was activating um, the lightning bugs. And so I ended up with basically my own private landing lights going all the way back to my cabin. And I thought, I was just so moved and so blessed by this, and it was shocking how much light they actually produced. I could actually see quite well where I was going, not like a lantern or things, but the road was clearly well lit up for me, and it just became sort of this indelible experience that shaped the formation of so much of this work. And so it's in the slide somewhere, but so the idea of guiding lights. Let me get Noreen. Oh, there's Julie too. See if Noreen will make her way back. The view of guiding lights is that not that we're going to be some craggy old lighthouse that's up in the middle of nowhere for boats at sea all by ourselves. So it's not like we're heroically holding the torch for everybody else. We're actually resting and caring for ourselves, doing our thing. But then when the moment comes where somebody needs something from us, there's maybe some light that we could shed. Um, and so the purpose of the retreat is, well, it's based in the five maturities. It's really just to invite us over a period of time to look at all the things that we're carrying that might not be serving us as fully as they perhaps once did. Yeah, maybe we've got giant torches we carry around just in case somebody needs light. Well, we're going to invite you to put them down and trust yourself and trust that you have everything that you need, and that what this is asking of us is a recognition that yes, we could always get better at certain things. Yes, we could always know more, but the world that we're moving into seems to lack a lot of maturity at times. And I feel like for us to be able to hold the kind of space we would like to do for our clients and loved ones and communities, that it really in the end comes down to maturity, much more than the pursuit of endless mastery. And then the more that we can do this ourselves and show it more maturely to those we care about, the more we can help them do the same for themselves. So I'm just going to sort of sort of enrich that with this wonderful quote from Elizabeth, and then we can start looking at the five maturities themselves. Yeah. So one of my aims for this retreat is to help support the creation of more beautiful people. And I'm not going to teach you maturity because I don't believe you can teach people maturity. Um, uh, and so we're going to help you process your own experiences, help you feel more, hopefully more confident in yourself, and really encourage you, all of us to begin to imagine if we're freed from some of the constraints that we often feel because of roles we're expected to play or titles we're expected to hold. How could we bring more of our whole and authentic self to the work that we do? And so for me, then the five maturities is a way to begin to think about that and figure out how we might bring that more into our work. So I'll let you read this for a minute, and then we'll stop and see if you have any thoughts, and then we'll sort of introduce the five maturities to you. Um, so one of the, and I love this photo, but one of the propositions in this for me is that maturity is sort of the precursor to wisdom. And one of the things that wisdom brings and offers is a recognition that very few things can be simply explained as being good or bad or right or wrong. And I thought about this like, in terms of the last election and how it turned out. And obviously I was felt very disappointed and very concerned for our country. But then I started playing with these other thought experiments like, well, what if he was the perfect president? Not because he's going to be any good at it or very good for the country, but because maybe there's an invitation in this for all of us to mature. And even some of the discourse that I've been seeing is causing us to just really question, like, what do we want to be as a country now? And how do we maybe make amends for the things we've done badly towards people in the past? And how might we sort of realize we had this window of time after the Second World War where we were blessed with all these things, but it was actually on the backs of people, um, other people. And so I thought, what if it was there was an awakening that came in the country because of our opposition to what's going to perhaps unfold, then maybe in the end he might become the perfect president. Not because he's perfect in the moment, but what he brings out in the rest of us. And so the maturities for me allow us to kind of not leap to conclusions, not leap to default responses, become more conscious about our habits, more open to learn from our environment and what it's asking of us. Um, and and so I'm just going to stop there and just see if anything's emerging for you so far. And Noreen, you're welcome to put things in the chat box, and Tracy will bring those forward if you'd like. But anything that's coming up for you so far before we kind of dive into the maturities with a little bit of experience for yourself, and then talk about how that weaves into the retreat.
And David, I can just highlight a couple of comments in
Sure.
the chat. I think also reflecting on the previous quote, Julie mentioned, what a beautiful thought, fills me with hope. Brenda mentioned really lovely and true.
Yeah, thank you. Mm. Yeah. Anything else for now? If not, we can move on. All right, so I'd like to, rather than try to explain all these to you, because I have a little bit of that in a minute, but I want to just guide you through a little meditation to kind of show you what this is all about. And then we can look at the explanations later. Thanks, there's Julie, wonderful. All right, so and you don't have to understand what any of these mean yet. We'll get to that, but for now, I'd like to just invite you to close your eyes. And particularly if you can hold in your mind this photo so you can kind of refer to it in your mind eye when we move up through the photograph. But I'd like you just to bring into your mind's eye as you just relax yourself. Anything that's occurred to you recently, could have been even been an hour ago, that in hindsight you wish you had done differently, or you wish it had gone differently, or turned out differently. But anything that you've reflected on and have some questions about now, and just kind of bring that into your mind's eye with as much clarity and compassion as you can. If you judge it good or bad, then sometimes it's harder to see the truth in it. So just let it be what it is. And as we move through the maturities, just sort of recognize which ones actually speak to you in terms of shedding some new light on your scenario. There may be some that don't do anything for you, and that's totally fine. But really the purpose for this is to give us some lenses on our own experience. So as you, again, come back to, maybe this is a story and you give it a headline, so make it easier to refer to as you move through the practice. So if it had a headline, what would it be? And now we're going to start all the way down in the mud and in the roots where a lot of this stuff all comes from. And ask yourself, what was my mindset during that encounter or event experience? And what perhaps could you not access that you would have liked within yourself? Or conversely, what got activated you wished hadn't in terms of your own personal maturity and capacity? So, do you notice anything here that might shed some light on, even with from within yourself, you couldn't bring forth that which might have been more helpful or appropriate or whatever you needed? So, from within yourself, what do you notice about your capacity in that encounter? And then as you move up into sort of the roots of this, and you can see in the photo, this woman is sort of in meditation and kind of sitting with whatever's trying to unfold for her. She's going to rise up out through the water and become a flower eventually, but for now, she's in that deep sort of getting a sense of clarity. So in your case, in the encounter you're thinking of, what did you not see? Or what did you not want to see? This has a lot to do with our spiritual maturity, and I'll explain more about these in a minute, but it's our ability to shift perspectives, see, empathize with somebody else, be in a more honest relationship, all the things that champion clarity. So, what didn't you see, or see clearly, or see well in this encounter that if you had, might have led you to frame it differently, respond to it differently? But what clarity didn't you have at the time? And now we're going to sort of break free from the dirt and move it up into the water. And we're going to move towards the one that we know the most about, because that's where a lot of our work is based, but we're going to move up into professional maturity. And these are our basic competencies. These are a basic understanding of whatever processes that we're in. But for you, in whatever your encounter was about, what could you not do? Like, what didn't you know? Or what didn't you understand? Or what didn't you act on that you could have in hindsight? Maybe you didn't know at all what to do. Maybe you had a very poor understanding, or maybe you did it, but it didn't go very well. But if you could have done something else, what might that have been, and what that might say about your competency in this particular encounter? What do you wish you could have done? And we'll move to the fourth one. Now we're up and through the water. We're about to break free into the sky. This has to do with our social maturity and our capability. And what this is really about, the development of wisdom. Um, and this has a lot to do with our ability to read the environment, both sense what's happening, intuit what's going on, understand what the environment's trying to get us to pay attention to, such that we can use what we know and what we can do with wisdom and discernment. Um, and so this is it's in the water for a reason. This is ongoing clarity, not only of what's being able to see things more clearly, but also to be able to see, of all the things I know and can do, what would be most useful here. So just think for yourself around your own capabilities, maybe the environment in which your encounter took place. What might that say about your capabilities or lack thereof at the time? What do you wish had been different? Mm. And the last one, contextual maturity is the one that sort of brings all of them together. It's our ability to really sense the entire context that we're in. It's the ability to use all five of these at the same time. Not that they're all maybe necessary, but we're always sort of scanning which of these would be most helpful, or where's my development really sitting right now. And maybe the framework is really useful for when you're like walking out of a meeting or leaving an encounter, or you just had an argument with somebody. It's those inevitable questions we ask ourselves. What did I miss? Or what didn't go well that I could have done differently? And this is giving us language, which has origins in research around how we might think about our encounter in a way that might shed some light on what it's asking us to develop in ourselves. So let's take another just minute and sort of sit with kind of where you are now and what sort of become apparent to you, and maybe doing this reflection for the last 5 or 6 minutes. And then we'll open our eyes in just a minute and come back and give you an opportunity to share. Mm. 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 All right. So you're welcome to open your eyes and come back to the room. And I would just be curious if there's anything you'd like to share from your journey. Mm. Mm. Take this down so we can see each other. Mm. Mm. Okay. All right. I hope you had a wonderful trip anyways. Oh, there you go. There's Julie. Julie's doing something. She's writing a funny word. She's stuck. There we go. Mm. Oh. Yeah, Michelle.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. And
Excellent.
so, yeah, which is a good thing. And always, just the experience. I started with impatience, and it was to do with looking after my husband this morning.
Mhm.
And just so many different emotions came through. Um, the little bit of clarity was acceptance of where he's
Mm.
at. And um, and I was actually thinking about after I actually did the 6-week program with the Five Maturities, um, where I was designing my life puzzle, and I realized I didn't access the space and the water and the air that I actually needed to
Mm.
distance myself by before being impatient, just access that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. By the time I got to the top, um, it was like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Mm.
you know, like I am human as well, and that experience alone of where I started um, to where I ended up the top with contextual, there's a little bit of guilt floating around
Mm,
that I'm okay and he isn't. So so the takeaway for me is like just to step back and give myself some time and some space
yeah.
uh, in the moment because it can be just reactive rather than um, being gentle on myself
Hmm.
is the thing. Anyway, that's
Well, thank you, Michelle.
no, that's
Mm,
okay. Thank
thank you.
you.
Mm, all right. So I've just got a couple more slides. I'm not going to show you. That's more just sort of outlining this in a couple of different formats. But the part that's not on this slide that we were just looking at was each one of these is tied to one of the elements of our I-beam model, which are sort of the five factors I did some research around years ago that relate to performance. And so each one's kind of pegged to when we're trying to understand for ourselves or somebody that we're working with, like why are they not getting it or why are they not changing their behavior, even though they've been trained or coached or thought about it a lot or they're trying really hard. And you know, most people in the world are pretty smart. You know, they do their thing, right? They get by, and so what I find is that they don't have, particularly like you're going to say a workshop or a coaching session to learn something new to make yourself a better leader or a better coach or a better wife or whatever you're after. And you're learning some new things, but you know, what I observed for most people, it's not like they didn't understand what was taught or didn't even know what to do with what was taught. They just didn't have. It was almost like we asked them to build a mansion on a pile of sand, right? They don't have the maturity because they've often may never have thought of themselves that way or experienced the world that way or imagined they could even do that and so I realized that every element or step forward on somebody's mastery requires a requisite, if not greater, step forward on their maturity. And you think about like how, you know, we've all been around the block a few times. And if you look back, when I was, so, I apologize for being a bit tired. All my stuff from overseas arrived today of all days, and a house guest came at the same time. So I've been up since a 6 a.m. call with my Australian client. So it's been a day. It's 11:30 here now in the evening. So apologize for being a bit tired. But um, where was I? Uh, but oh yes. So the value
I-beam.
of the what's that?
I-beam. You were
Yeah,
leading
yeah.
from I-beam.
So the value of the five maturities was to recognize that A, we need all five of them for somebody to really feel scaffolded to develop themselves. But B, any movement there requires an element of maturity. And what I found was, you know, largely that one area of maturity sort of matched really well to one area of mastery. So your ability to navigate your political landscape at work requires social maturity. You can read a room quickly. You can sense moods. You know who to go to with for what and who to avoid with what. That's social maturity, right? And often that's learned the hard way. Like, oops, I should, yeah. But the more we can do that, then the more mature we become, the more relaxed and confident becomes, and we get even better at reading the room or sensing the environment or affecting the environment. Um, and and then we each come to this with our own natural proclivities and preferences and gifts. And so some people are very astute about their own inner landscape, but really struggle to navigate the outer world, whereas other people are political animals and they thrive in those dynamics, but often may not have good sense of themselves. Um, and so the link between lightening your load and the maturities is a lot of the behaviors that we bring to the world to varying degrees compensate for a lack of maturity in that area. So people that, for example, come across as bullying or too aggressive or too domineering, have a lot of say competence or even capability in that space, but don't have the maturity to recognize it's actually doing more damage than they realize, and it's actually going to undermine their efforts to get things done because no one's going to want to work for them. And so for our sake around lightening your load, it's recognizing things like, why do I hold on to this thing that I know is not good for me or isn't really giving me what I would like? Why am I still stuck in that pattern? It's not about we're going to make you smarter, give you more tools, we give you 5 more books. What part of you needs to grow up in the best sense of that word so you don't need it anymore? And you can just allow yourself. And so for you, Michelle, what is impatience? What's it about? Rather than saying, oh, I wish I was more patient, just say, I'd like to understand my impatience. So in the world of the 5 maturities, nothing is bad or good. They just are. And so it's in there. So we'll do a series of investigations of these experiences you're having yourself that you'd rather be different, but rather than trying to say, we're now going to give you the magic formula so they'll go away. No, we're going to invite you to sit with them longer. Oh, here's Robert. There we go. Yeah, and so yeah. Well, hey Robert, can you hear us? Maybe not yet. We can see Robert, so just work on it and see. No sound yet.
No audio.
Oh, there it is. We can hear you. But maybe he can't hear us. Anyway, so in the retreat, we're going to have just a bunch of activities for you to investigate pieces of your life for yourself or your career, whatever you'd like to look at, through the lens of the maturities, and to see which ones will be most valuable for you to explore. Uh, so I was going to share a bit about the retreat itself, but I just want to see if anything is coming up for you now. All right. All right. Well, Robert's trying to figure out his technology. I'm going to move on and share the screen again so I can just sort of walk you through what this looks like. Yeah, we'll do this a lot, this piece here. We're going to get you to play with an issue and sort of imagine sitting around all 4 sides and ask yourself, would you like to pay attention to address your issue in a way you did not before? So we'll have various versions of this all throughout the program. But this is sort of some of what we've just been sharing. And so it's not just lightening your load in the sense of taking things out of your backpack and composting them, but like if you were to curate what's really essential for you right now, of all the things you've studied and learned and got certified in, developed, God, what feels most essential for you now? Because I feel like the world needs new things from us. So what is the essence of what you've learned and who you've become? What does that look like? How can you channel that more directly as opposed to more indirectly, like through the veils of more formalized activities? And can we stand in the storm and be and contribute? So that's what this is really about, and it's part of this longer journey that we're on. That I have other slides about, which I didn't want to include here, but which is really moving from where most of us were raised in our career to become really competent at implementing what other people taught us or we learned ourselves, which is fine. It's good to be competent. It's good to know what we're doing. It's good to take the best of what we've been taught and use it for others. And I feel like more and more the complexity, the dynamics, the heightened emotion that's in so many places now makes that less and less useful. as in and of itself. And the distinction I would offer is that we're being asked now to engage much more in conscious improvisation. In this moment in time with this human being or human beings in front of me, what value can I bring to them with the greatest awareness I can bring that might help this become a more fruitful encounter or a more awakened group or whatever it is that they're needing from you. And so it's basically saying, I'm going to bring everything I have and everything I know and all of who I am to this moment in time. But as I do so, I'm not going to know yet until I get there whether that's going to be necessary. And so as long as I'm in integrity with myself and with the group, it can come from any part of me. Like you could say, I'm an exquisite maker of bread. And what I'm realizing is this group has no yeast. And that's why it's flat. And we always turn out as matzo crackers or something. So what would yeast represent? I don't know what that means. I mean, you could say to yourself, but I think that somehow it speaks to what this group is lacking. There's no energy. It's all deflated. It's gone. It's old. It's dead. And you're like, huh. So what would yeast mean for you all in this group? Where's the energy now for you? It's not here anymore. It's gone. When did it die? Where did it go? How have you been continuing on without any yeast? And so there's no curriculum about this. There's no plan for this. There's no step-by-step directive for this. It's the ability to be a guiding light, to be a firefly in the bush for the person walking by. And so the way we're going to organize that, there's going to be 12 sessions. It's an opening session. You'll see that in a minute. And then 2 sessions for each of the 5 maturities. We're just using them not so much to teach the maturities, but more just sort of the backdrop for a whole series of activities about in that space, what would lightning your load look like? They're done twice a day, so you can always find one that hopefully is convenient for you. Everything's recorded and put in the circle space for you the next day. So you'll have that if you miss something or you want to listen again. You'll have a bunch of resources and some assignments for each of the sessions. And again, as always, you can use them, not use them, adapt them, whatever serves you. And so we had a student a while back who didn't do any of the assignments. And that was her victory. She said, all my life, I've been so compliant. I've done everything people told me. So I could get the brownie points, get the gold star, get the good grade, please my parents. And she said, screw this. I'm not going to do any of them. And that was her freedom. That's what and she said, I went back and did them after the program was over because they were kind of interesting, but I needed to just allow myself to experience not complying with the teacher's request. I said, great, perfect, exactly. I said, ironically, you get a gold star for the class because you've now mastered the whole point. And then we've got a space and circle for the retreat group. So you can ask questions, share insights, connect with people that may be on a similar journey to you. We'll have a chance for you to pair up in some small groups for 1 week a month. We've got some assignments there again, which you can do, adapt or not do, whatever your pod decides is most important. And then one of the things we've found has really been helpful for people, and we're going to do this now going forward, is we're going to put all of the core materials and the assignments and everything into PDF with spaces for you to write. So what you would have just gotten in the live session is going to be right there for the most part. The key requests we're making of you, any notes from your meetings together, and spaces for you to journal is all right in the same section. And so that'll be in the handbook. And then the other thing is that until we do something else in a year or so, here's what it all looks like. If you like lists and have it all mapped out, here it is. And like I said, you'll have a core session in the beginning, an assignment for you to do on your own, some integration work that you can do, mostly just sort of a meditation and kind of be aware of kind of what emerged from you in the field work, and then a chance to come together with your peer pod and figure out what it all meant to you and where you landed. And and then we'll have a closing session at the very end, just to kind of reflect on how your load feels now and any thresholds that were important to you in that process. And then we have some special resources that sort of augment each of the maturities. These are all bodies of work I've taught for years, and we're going to make some relevant pieces of each one available to you, not to try to teach you them, but just to show how they'll enrich your understanding of that maturity. So I'm going to just stop there for now and see if there's any questions that come up for you. And yeah. Mm.
David, I don't have any questions. Georgiana and Jackie are raving about their experience and
Yeah,
are encouraging me to join them on the journey. And so
great.
they've been talking about it quite a bit, and that is why I'm being so quiet, because I'm hearing what they're liking about it.
Okay, wonderful. And you don't have to share the details, but how did things turn out to you after the last time I saw you with the group? Is there something you would be willing to share about that?
Oh yeah, it was so incredibly helpful. I
Mm,
mean, the design was simple but complex. It seemed simple,
yeah.
and it really brought complete clarity for me that I did not want to apply for the director job.
Mm,
And I had woken up with that conviction and that peace for many mornings, but during the
mm.
day, I talked myself out of my intuition.
Oh no.
And the design of that workshop really let me let go
Hmm.
of the sad parts of
Yeah,
not continuing to climb the corporate ladder.
yeah.
And it was so impactful for me to get the support of the entire team. So I was
Mm,
feeling like I was disappointing myself.
mm,
And
mm.
it was really, really, really helpful. Would it be helpful for the group to understand more or not necessarily?
I'm sure. Go ahead. I'm observing that you seem much lighter
Mm,
than the last time I saw you and how I've
mhm,
known you.
mhm,
So Noreen works for a company that I've done some work for, and we had they were kind of at a sort of a junction as a
mhm,
team,
mhm.
and we made one go at trying to resolve the junction, and some things didn't happen that we were expecting to happen. So we tried again, and um, yeah, and as often happens when you trust your improvisation, in some ways the people I would have least guessed would be the ones that would lead the way did.
Mm,
Some of
mm,
the men on your team who don't often speak much,
mhm.
just kind of modeled like, oh, this is what this is about.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if there's anything more that feels important to you to share, but I just want to acknowledge that I see in you a lightness that I did not see before.
Yeah, we have been growing as a team. The whole talent and OD team
Mhm.
has been growing rapidly. I was the 15th member of the team that's now almost 70 people.
Mm.
And the expansion from 15 to 70 happened in a year. Yeah, really remarkable. Our VP had been asking for a lot of resources for years and years and years. And we were doing an excellent job on the leadership development and coaching side,
Mm.
but there were a whole bunch of needs, succession planning, career development that the organization was not yet valuing. But then COVID hit and our industry took off, and we had the best year ever in our 53rd year, and then we doubled that in our 54th year of existence. So all of a sudden, there was money everywhere, and they were investing in a lot of things, including talent and OD. So tremendous change, quadrupling the size of our group. We really were we were struggling We were really struggling because we were brand new and we were trying to figure out. We trusted each other, which was good, but we didn't have goal clarity. We didn't have role clarity. Um, and our leader is a lovely human being, very unstructured, very relational. And there were some people getting very frustrated that we weren't actually doing very much.
Yeah.
And so we brought in David, and David teed up some questions, what's in the past, what's in the present, what's in the future, which wasn't particularly miraculous, but he introduced what's in between each of those states. And where is your energy in the past, present, or future in between states? And that simple framing helped me realize I was really in between the present and the future. And I had a lot of baggage from the past. I got laid off when I was a VP, and I was feeling like I should get back to that place. Like I shouldn't let myself down, but I do not want any more responsibility. And I'm 60, and I don't really love the corporate culture at corporate. I like the culture in our team, but our culture's in the 1980s. And I knew that if I applied for this director job, I would not fit. And I had this intuition that if I kept climbing, I would essentially get fired because I'm very bold, I'm very outspoken. I like to be the elephant namer. And in many places in the work that I do, I get rewarded for that. But I notice at Penske, the elephant namers get shunned. Our boss says, you can't call the baby ugly. And it's really true. There's this tremendous pride in what people have built over 50 years. We have a lot of longevity. Many people have been there 20, 30, 35 years, and they really care very much, but they lack objectivity about anyone asking, is this open to change? Is that possible? So I was grappling. I mean, back and forth, there's 4 people on the team. One of them is 15 years older than I am. She didn't want it. And 2 of them, she and I both hired. And what I was grappling with is the man who eventually applied and got the job is so much more leaderly than I am. He's he's a way better leader of our team than I could be, ever. And I think I had to grapple with that because I had led teams many times over 40 years and realizing I wasn't the best leader and I thought I was amazing was one thing I had to process. And then I'm not going to climb the corporate ladder was another thing I had to process. And in this session that David facilitated, we broke out into small teams and then we all came back together. And when we came back together and shared, I was on the verge of bursting into tears. And I'm not normally quiet. I'm normally like this. And I didn't say a word. And then I don't remember who asked, maybe you, David, like at the very end, Noreen, what's going on for you? And the tears rolled and the relief came, and I pretty much said, I'm really sad because Jason is a much better candidate than I am. And I'm really sad because I've been grappling with whether I want more responsibility, and I'm realizing I don't. I'm really sad because I don't fit the corporate culture. And even if I wanted to, I don't believe I would be successful in this particular environment. So I processed all my grief, which I had been noodling on for 2-3 months. And as soon as I said it, my whole team was like, oh, we're so sorry you've been in such distress. If you had told us, we could have helped you. And, that's very leaderly what you just did. And so it was a very cathartic experience and freed me up. And like David said, I'm so much lighter. I'm like aligned with what I genuinely want and where I am in life and what's important to me. And that was like a big weight off my shoulders.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Um,
was having some deja vu coming through as you
why is that, Michelle?
just reminded me of IBM days, and nobody wants to change. And if you came in at the end, you got flicked first. So everyone was protected. And if you kind of, yeah. Anyways, you just took me back to a little bit of some of that stuff. Glad you're.
And the beauty, and this goes to for me to I was really proud of the work that we did that day, but and the time before had been really difficult for a number of reasons. But part of the contextual maturity is recognizing that there was, I don't know what, 8 or 10 people on the call, maybe. Um, every single one of them was on their own journey that day, all of them in their own way. And so it's not like I'm going to coach each person, but you somehow weaving invitations. And I had this intuition that because sometimes the guys in your group kind of do this, and I thought I got to get them to talk, because if they can talk, then that's going to set the mood for everybody else. And they did, and they shared. One guy in particular, I don't remember his name, but he was quite talked the most. And then, like, how's that landing for people, and who's taking what from that, and what's the leader doing? And yeah, and I remember my memory is I called on you at the end because he hadn't spoken yet, which was surprising to me. And I thought whatever you're going to say is going to be important to you, so I wanted to make sure that we had space if that's what you wanted. Um, and the beauty of that is we couldn't have predicted any of that in the beginning. And so whatever is moving through the group, whatever the group's wanting to try to address, is what becomes possible. And so that's what some like the ID work that we do is about. But the Five Maturities is really about, let me just stop sharing for a second, is about the maturity to trust ourselves to work that way, or even to move through life that way. Um, Yeah, and so I'm curious, Michelle, did you tell your husband that you're feeling impatient?
No,
Well, that might be an invitation. Have a conversation. Maybe he's impatient as well. Yeah,
he is. I
I
feel
know
like
he is.
we're stepping into each other's worlds, and
Yeah,
we're like,
yeah, and
yeah.
I know you're deep caring for each other, and so maybe it's a conversation. Just do a little empty chair work with impatience and say, what are we being asked to learn about impatience right now?
My body actually was tingling when you said a little bit back. You're going to be invited to sit a little longer. it, and then I just started to shoot where my impatience started,
Mm,
way before that moment. So bring on,
yeah,
the retreat. So,
yeah,
but yes, thank you. That's an invitation for now, where we're both at. Um, yeah.
yeah. Mm, mm. Let me go ahead and share the screen again just briefly, but um, uh, yeah. Yeah, and so the purpose of we had a fabulous time with the 80 people that came in our little pilot in the last few months. And so this gives people more time. We have some people are coming back from that experience to do more, and some people are starting from the first go. But um, the these as those of you who've studied with me before know this is one of my favorite slides. And and so we're not going to be like the guy on the right at the top of those trying to stand and look really cool. We're not going to be over here just chatting and laughing so hard we fall down. That's the story I make up about them. We're just going skiing. We're not even going to learn how to ski. We're going to go skiing. Hey, you can't learn how to be mature either. But the part of this is that one of my wishes for all of us is that there's so much of who we are and what we know and what we can do that we leave off the table because it doesn't fit in our job description or what the group expects us to be like. And so I want to just I want us to feel freer by the time you're done. You're not going to carry certain things anymore. You're not going to play an obligatory role for anybody anymore. That's one that's not serving you or them even. But sort of feel like it was when we were children and just played for the sake of playing. And yes, we have adult responsibilities and adults to deal with. But in the end, the value for me of the maturity is that it allows us to be a bit more daring and a bit more creative and a bit more human, which are all things I think we need more of now. So on the little cracks in between our curriculums and the things we're supposed to do, we can find moments where we can help somebody free themselves to really step into that moment, like you did that day, Noreen. Yeah. Right. And so you can register on the website. You'll get a follow-up email, which will have that on information there for you. But I'm just going to take this down one more time and see if there's any final questions or reflections before we call it a day. And we'll make sure we track Julie if she's still with us. She is. Yeah, there she is. Good. And Robert, if you can hear us, you can put something in the chat box.
I just had a very brief reflection that I've wrestled all my life with being out of sync with the rest of the world, and that the promise and the capacities that I've developed have been mostly disappointing because of circumstances I wasn't aware of that I'm becoming aware of in the last month or say the last year maximum. And I'm feeling a lot of grief and a lot of confusion about where do I go from here. I was so eager to participate in whatever way I could. My economic situation is desperate, and I just simply don't have the money or the financial skills to have that happen now, and I can't rely on a miracle. I've done that most of my life with very fixed to poor results. So, but I did want to say the one thing, because I often talk too much and miss the point of what I'm trying to say, that this program that I most recently completed, or almost completed, or completed in the way I completed it, a month late, but I completed the way I completed it with extraordinary results for myself, and I want to carry that on in the community that I've been privileged to be in, and just to say thank you for all the people that contributed to me, and especially to you, David. I hope that my incompetence with technology got my final report of the the program that we've just completed a month late, but I'm hoping that I sent it off today. I'm hoping that you received it. But I'm not disappearing. I'll be using community more. And putting what I've learned about myself and about this work, which I'm aiming for my whole life, of just being in the moment and working from that will be my work going forward for however much longer I have. I just turned 75 and health is, as it happens, declining. And however much longer, but it's 2 weeks or 2 years. That's the time I have, and grateful that many of the obstacles that I have faced, that I've been able to that I put in my way over the years, or were put in my way, however you want to look at it, they're beginning to disappear. And I credit this work
Hmm.
for that. So that was all. I came late. I was very focused on, oh, there's a session at 5 o'clock. And then it was 5:30. Oh, wait a minute. It's this brain glitch I've had that's robbed me about half my life.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Well,
And
thank you, Robert.
anyway, so
I'm so
that's
glad
all I
you
want to
came.
say.
Yeah. And so wanted to let you know, so we're shifting our BCEs for next year to focus on the five maturities and this work. So there'll be sort of a free, more open version of small bits of this. So that would be something that you can partake of, just to have little refreshers and dip back in to support this journey on right now. But I can see this shift in you even from the last time I saw you. So I can hear that it's not easy right now. And I just want to commend you for the work. You've put a lot of effort into this for yourself.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
yeah.
No
Mm.
effort is ever wasted.
No.
May not show up right away or be what I expected,
Yeah.
but certainly is present. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I wanted to share what Brenda put in the chat, Robert, in response to some of your words. Interesting how the word grief comes up, but relates to different aspects of life. And she just really loved and appreciated your honesty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
That's the key, I think, to be honest, to be willing to stand in the gap of what I want and what I have,
Mm.
which is always there,
Mm.
and overcome the expectation. It's supposed to be different.
Yeah.
Supposed to. The great line from Lily Tomlin, being a mature is coming to the understanding that you will never have a happy childhood. Too bad. I
Yeah.
have a much happier adulthood now. So
Great.
I'm grateful for that.
Mm.
David, Julie is also commenting, first expressing her gratitude and thanks, and commenting that even more certain that Guiding Lights is the right place at the right moment for her.
Mm. Yeah. And you said, Brenda, you're making the point we shared earlier about everybody's on their own journey, and your journey is
Yeah,
to pay attention to yourself.
yeah, I do have to.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful. Yeah.
I feel sad not joining you, but I have to do this.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah. And we'll be here when you get done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my friends, I'm going to call it an evening, and thank you for joining us. Some great sharing, and I'm looking forward to having you with us on the retreat if you choose to come join us.
Thank you so much.
And well, thank you, Brenda, and we'll see you next time around.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks everybody. Take care.
Adios.
Take care.
Be
Adios,
well,
everyone.
everyone.
Take
Okay,
care.
bye-bye.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye.